Trans-Africa Radio, made in Africa.
Zano and Tiwe on that one is titled Oceans Apart right here on Trans-Africa Radio. Welcome in case you've just joined me. Welcome to you, my dear friend. Remember to join us on Twitter. Very, very, very great day. And like I promised you earlier on that we've got a Pan-African, Dr. Umar Johnson. How are you, sir?
Good afternoon, my brother. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Lovely having you too right here. How's your day going?
All's been well. Arrived yesterday here in South Africa. My third visit, but my first in 6 years. Good to be back.
6 years?
Yes, sir.
Anything changed for you in those 6 years?
Well, it's only been a day so far. But nah, still positive vibes, good people, Pan-African consciousness. So far, so good.
Fantastic. Now let's just get ahead. Who is the Prince of Pan-African? Or rather, let's just put it this way. Who is Dr. Umar Johnson and where is he from? For somebody who doesn't know who you are.
Yes, I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, USA. I'm a doctor of clinical psychology, school psychologist, educator, and political scientist. I'm an author of the book Psychoacademic Holocaust, the Special Education and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys, former Minister of Education for Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association, and founder of Team Pan-African, the international movement for the independence and protection of African people. But African children is what I do. Pan-Africanism is what I live. And we're currently trying to build a residential academy, a global residential academy for African boys that's going to specialize in entrepreneurial science, where we teach them economic vitality in America, in the UK, and I suspect here in South Africa as well. All of our young people are basically being told that the only way to a successful life is through a college degree. We're finding that that's not the case. In America, we have over 2 million African Americans with master's and doctorate degrees who are unemployed and cannot find work. College is not the key to success, but it can be the key to debt, because many of our people end up owing substantial amounts to the banks in the form of student loans, and they can't even find a job to pay them off. So we want to give them an alternative.
Interesting one right there. Now, obviously, you are down here for the what we call the Azania tour.
Yes.
Tell us more about this tour.
Well, this tour is going to take me across South Africa, here in Johannesburg, Cape Town, other places, to basically let brothers and sisters know what's going on in America, to find out what's going on here, to talk about Pan-African unification and unity, to talk about what we need to do as an African people to bring about that independence that we have so romanticized but have not yet realized. It's time to do that. When you look across the world, you see African people in a very bad state. I just came from the United Kingdom. I live in the U.S. I'll be going to Paris in about a week or two. And everywhere I go, you see the same situation. African people having an economy that's dominated by other people from other countries. We don't own our own economics. We don't own our own schools for our children. We are at the mercy of other people. And as Marcus Garvey said, a people who are at the mercy of another sooner or later dies.
Very interesting one there indeed. And the tour, when was it formed and what is it about?
Well, it's about Pan-African unity.
Yes.
The purpose is Pan-African unity, to recognize that although we may be South African, we might be African-American, we might be Africans of the United Kingdom, Jamaica, wherever we are, we're still part of a global African family. Pan-Africanism is basically the belief that all African people are of one human family first, and that we should identify with that human family first. So I'm an African before I'm a Muslim, I'm an African before I'm a Christian, I'm an African before I'm a Rasta. We believe that our racial, our cultural ancestry should be more primary to our identity than any other superficial identity that we may have.
And how long has it been in existence?
Pan-Africanism is the black man's oldest formal ideology. Some people would say it dates back to the Haitian Revolution, but there's evidence that is even older than the Haitian Revolution. I would argue that Pan-Africanism is as old as African people, because since God has put us on earth, we have been circumnavigating the globe. We have been migrating and transmigrating around the world, which necessitated a need for us to communicate with each other to and forth, back and forth from Africa. So as long as there's been African people, there's been Pan-Africanism, in my opinion.
A very interesting one there indeed. And the tour. Speaking of the tour, the Azania tour, when is it scheduled to start and when is it going to end?
Well, I would say it started officially yesterday. with the meet and greet, and then today we had a powerful meet and greet as well with a breakfast. And then this evening, I'll be speaking for the first time at the Market Theater tonight from 6 o'clock until 10 o'clock. So that'll be my first formal presentation in South Africa ever, because although I've been here twice before, never to present to the people. So this will be my first time presenting tonight. So I'm excited. And then tomorrow, I will be at the Mabopane Indoor Stadium from 11 to 2. And we basically have events basically every day. I'm going to be here for 3 weeks, and I don't want to waste a second of it.
Fantastic. And when did you realize there is a need or there's a purpose for the Zania tour?
I would say that there's a need for that type of a tour in every African country, every Caribbean country, every state in America, every state in Europe. African people need to know that there's African people in other parts of the world that care about this situation and want to unite and work with them. The irony of our situation as African folks is that we really have all the talent and all the education and all the resources that we have scattered across the globe. If we can just organize the talents and organize the resources, we will be able to solve most of the problems that we have. Every African community I have found, not only through study but in visiting, has a unique role to play in the global African Renaissance. Africans in Europe have a unique role. Those in the Caribbean have a unique role. I was in South America last year. They have a unique role. In Canada, a unique role. In South America, South Africa, a unique role. So we have to get in where we fit in. Everyone find their niche. Let's work together, put egos to the side, and let's give African people a new reality in this world.
Fantastic. Now, you'll also be speaking to a variety of students, communities, professional audiences in Johannesburg, Pretoria, Cape Town, Port Elizabeth, Durban too. Am I right? And also a number of surrounding townships. This is a very interesting one. What is the focus of the talks, and will they be any different in each state?
Yes. Ultimately, we want to cover every major aspect of African life. So we're going to deal with the children and education. Obviously, as a school principal and a school psychologist, that's an expertise of mine. We're going to deal with the mental health of African people, which is a very controversial topic because, number one, a lot of times as Africans, we don't like to admit that we do have mental illness. And then number two, we do not trust the traditional Eurocentric forms of therapy because white psychology and psychiatry has been used as a tremendous weapon of mass destruction against African people globally. Remember, it was the psychologists and psychiatrists who first put forth the notion of African intellectual inferiority. So we understand that our people have a deep mistrust historically for Eurocentric modes of therapy and mental treatment. We're also going to talk about organizing the youth. Right now, South Africa obviously is going through a little situation where the young folks are rising up, and I support them in their protests against the hiking of the tuition, which is going to make it almost impossible for many of them to get an education, which is a strategy of racism to close down the opportunities for African people. They're doing the same thing in the United States of America. Okay, we're also going to talk about the black family, saving the black family, the state of black male-female relationships. I don't have to talk about the fact that many of us who have been victimized by the Eurocentric reality have trouble working together in traditional male-female relationship family structure. And as a result of that, a lot of our children are growing up without both parents in the home, which leads to a lot of psychological outcomes that are not so fortunate. So we have to fix the family, we have to fix the schools, we have to build our own schools, and also the economy. The economics is central because Africa, as we all know, colonialism, slavery has always been about the exploitation of African wealth for foreign interests. We need to change that around. We need to do something about that. And it starts with revolutionary African entrepreneurship. It's going to be hard for us to fix our problems if we cannot finance the solutions because every change has to be financed. You can't bring about change without the necessary dollars. And that has been an Achilles heel in the black struggle as long as we can remember.
Fantastic. Now, this is a question a sister of mine asked, Yvonne, and she says, why Africa?
What does she mean, why Africa?
Why Africa? It could have been anywhere else in the world. This tour could have been anywhere else in the world.
Because I'm African.
Why Africa?
Because I'm African. Everything starts with home. We have to be what I call unapologetically African. It needs to be a move towards unapologetically African identity. And that's important because a lot of us have been made to feel ashamed about the way we look, the way we live, the way we talk, the way we dress, the way we walk. It's amazing that the oldest people in the world have been made to feel insecure about themselves by the youngest people in the world. So when we talk about being unapologetically African, we talk about affirming the way our hair is, affirming the way our skin color, affirming our spirituality, affirming our culture. No one in the world gets respect when they're insecure about who they are. So we have to reaffirm our Africanity, because whatever is not respected ultimately isn't protected either.
Fantastic. Now your focus is, of course, on issues that affect Africa and mostly the African youth, correct? What has been the biggest issue that you have realized we have as young people?
Miseducation, economic castration, and a failure to transfer leadership in African organizations to the youth. One of the biggest things I find in the States, I find it in Africa, I find it in the UK as well, Canada, everywhere I go. And we are unique amongst the different human families in that we do not have a protocol. We have a traditional protocol, but we don't have a contemporary political protocol that transfers leadership and responsibility from the elders to the youth. As a result of that, the youth often feel cut out or shut out from a lot of traditional organizations. The elders are afraid to pass on to the youth because they're afraid that they're not sincere and may take the organization in a different direction. And you find this, whether it's the Black church, whether it's the Pan-African organization, whether it's a typical one-dimensional grassroots organization, you don't see a transference of leadership. So there's a breakdown in protocol in Black organizations, and we need to do something about that. And a lot of that has to do with the African ego. We got to recognize something. Because we have been so marginalized as a people, whenever we get an opportunity to wield power, whenever we get an opportunity to yield power, we don't like to share it. We like to become very possessive and dictatorial with our authority because we're not used to having it. And so we have to do something about that ego. Black men, we have a big problem with ego. When you study African society, since colonialism, you see ego has played a big role in the assassinations of different leaders. Patrice Lumumba was murdered because of Mobutu's ego. Someone wants to take your place and lead in your stead. So you always have to deal with the role of the ego in the African struggle.
Fantastic. Now, any further advice you'd like to give for our African youth?
I want to give some advice to African parents, and this is the school psychologist in me coming out. Number one, stop getting your children evaluated for special education unless you believe in your heart that there's something absolutely wrong with that child. Too many of our children are being put in this special education learning program with presumed disabilities which cannot be proven to exist. And it is important that your parents understand that most of the diagnoses we give as psychologists are not objectively determined. When someone says your daughter has a reading disability or your son has a math disability, that's not an objective diagnosis. That is a conclusion that the psychologist reaches based off the work we've done with your child. It's not a fact. And we have to stop letting non-African psychologists and educators convince us that our children have problems when they don't. To the youth, they need to study, they need to struggle, and they need to disseminate information. They have to study. It doesn't matter how much courage you have if you're ignorant about the situations that affect us. On the flip side, okay, you can have a lot of knowledge, but without courage, you can't get anything done either. But the youth have to study, they have to struggle together, they have to organize, they have to master the science of working with other Black people, because that is where our disunity hinges itself upon our inability to work together and subjugate ego to the greater good of the society and the movement.
Thank you so much, Doctor. It's been a pleasure having you over.
Thank you.
Right here on Trans Africa Radio. All the best to the Azania tour. And the dates, you want to give out the dates? Just
sure. It's a couple of them.
Yes.
So tonight, 6 to 10, Market Theater. Tomorrow, we will be at the Actionville Community Hall in Johannesburg. We will be at the Ibo Hosseini Solutions, Marshall Street, for an African lunch, how to build strong African families. There's a lot of dates. If anyone needs information, they can email me for it. Dr. Umar Johnson at yahoo.com. That's DRUMAR Johnson at yahoo.com. They can also connect with me on Instagram and Twitter at Dr. Umar Johnson. And if they want to add me on WhatsApp, they can do so with my phone number, 215-989-9858. Of course, they would have to add the international code for America, but it's 215-989-9858. So I'm just looking forward to meeting a lot of good African people, eating some good South African food, and building for that Pan-African Renaissance.
Anyway, let me just, move just swiftly away from the Zanio tour. The food, you said South African food. Have you
sir.
tried any South African food?
I think this morning, those were some traditional South African dishes.
What
I'm
was
not
it?
sure. I don't know, but it was good. I don't know the names of the different foods that I ate this morning.
But it was good.
Yes. But I remarked yesterday that of all my journeys to Africa, to the continent, South Africa may be the only place that I haven't eaten any indigenous African cuisine, food that we eat as black people.
Yes.
I've had it in Ghana, I've had it in Nigeria, Ethiopia, Malawi, Liberia, Ghana, but I want to eat some South African food.
Fantastic. Any further words before we just close off?
No, unity. The whole thing is about unity. It's about working together. It's not about hating anyone else. It's about loving ourselves. And it's about providing the infrastructure that we need as a people. We lack infrastructure. We lack it. Educational infrastructure, economic infrastructure, political infrastructure. We need infrastructure. Freedom is only freedom to the extent that you provide for the needs of yourself and your community. And that's what this tour is all about. How can we work together? Hands across the Atlantic Ocean, Africa for the Africans.
Africa for the Africans. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Dr.
my brother.
Umar. All the best for the
Thank
tour.
you.
And I will join you guys tonight.
All right. Looking forward to it.
Fantastic. That was Dr. Umar Johnson, the Prince of African, Pan-African. Yes. Look at life, what we call it right here on Trans Africa Radio. Remember, if you've got any questions or if you would love to attend this tour, you can just tweet us at Trans Africa.
Made in Africa.
I have one thing to say. You better work.